Good morning, Philadelphia, and all of the ships at sea. This is your girl, Amber E, with the piping hot tea. This is my tea. What's yours? You have to excuse me. I know that sometimes I get people who will listen or watch in the future and go, "It's 8 o'clock, Amber, where you at?" Apologies. I'll admit, and if you know me well enough, it doesn't take a lot to please me, and I get easily excited by things around me, and I was getting everything ready for the show and listening to the music that came on before my show started, and I'm like, and I had a little dance, and I go, oh my goodness, no, Amber, get on the radio, it's time. But in any event, I hope you enjoyed Germantown Radio as much as I do. Germantown Radio, where all your dreams come true. In any event, guys, happy Saturday after Thanksgiving, happy Saturday after Black Friday, happy Saturday after the, I would dare say, second most impactful holiday of the Embers, September through December, first being Halloween, I would say, and now we're here in the second, or we just passed the second. So anyway, I really hope that you all had a good Thanksgiving. And if you were one of those people who had to push through the holiday season, my shout out goes to you. As you know, and also before I get into that, I want to thank everyone who has been just so kind. I got a message from one person who saw my show last Saturday, and when I was talking about Queen Jamia Irons, Nay Newsom, and she said that, she heard the anguish in my voice. It was like, I'm glad that someone else could tell. Not like I was looking for that, but more like, again, in the spirit of community, I just really was appreciative of that. And so thank you for all of you who sent out your condolences to me. But more importantly, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself as we continue to commemorate Jamia's legacy, and of course her memorial service was this past Monday. To all of you who either watched or were able to be there in person, I'm really, really glad that we were able to celebrate her herself. I'll get to that in a little bit more in a few moments. But in any event, I'm just so glad that we could all join each other on this crisp fall day. And for those of you who I appreciate, who didn't, jump into the, holiday shopping scene, but did really, and I hope this doesn't sound shady, who didn't just get, okay guys, the turkey's done, we're finished with the collard greens, macaroni and cheese has only like 3/4 of it left, we're done with the sweet potato pie, nobody brought pumpkin this year, so there's no fight, let's get to Walmart. Like, thank you all so much for really just taking the time to pause. Again, this morning's tea is an Irish breakfast, and I'm actually doing it with cream instead of sugar. It's not actually, I'll clarify. It's a flavored creamer is how I am doing my tea this morning. Yes, I know. At first I was thinking, am I going to do sugar? And I was very tempted to do sugar this morning. And I thought, nah, we're just going to do the creamer with the Irish breakfast, what I usually have in the mornings anyway. And if you've heard me on my show, I was talking about how in my office there's a lot of free coffee. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of free coffee that's quite tasty, I might add. And so what I will say is sometimes I get a little tempted to go overboard, but I will admit I've been very consistent and quite proud of myself for not jumping back into the coffee train. I drink coffee because I like the taste of it. And I know I talk about this a lot, but I like coffee. Hello, cousin. Thank you for watching my show. Good morning to you, good sir. I like coffee, too. People think that if you like coffee, you can't like tea and vice versa. That's not true at all, good people. Where do we get this stuff? But in any event, from a rhythmic standpoint, I'm very glad that I have been consistent with drinking Irish breakfast in the mornings at my office. And I like that it keeps me alert. It gives me energy without giving me the shakes. And I'll admit, it makes me feel fancy to, sit there with a cup of tea. One of my coworkers, and if I shared the story with you already, then, indulge. One of my coworkers overheard me talking to myself. It was probably around 2:30 in the afternoon. And I go, is it too early to have tea? And he goes, never. And I look at him and I go, well, okay. I might have blushed a little bit. I was like, oh, okay. I love my tea people. I love that, I didn't find the tea life found me. You'll have to excuse me for doing this again. Last week I was getting over a little something, and I'm glad to say I'm out of the woods. Right now it's a little chilly, so I'm just gonna, excuse me. Thank you so much for understanding, good people. And I hope that the heat's working where you live too. Hey, the heat's good in the studio, but you know what I mean. If you've known me for a couple of years, I've had a few heat issues in my home. Not this year, so glad for that. But in any event, you know how we do. Spoons up, y'all. Let's get this tea stirring and this tea a-piping. Here we go. Round and round's a dreadful show. Back and forth is how we go. From 6 to 12 and back again. Back and forth to stay within. Let's see this. Oh my God. Yay. Okay, yay. This is good. Talk amongst yourselves. Repeat after me. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie? That is your topic. Discuss. Go ahead. Don't hurt anybody. You know, this is just civil conversation, but don't hurt nobody. Discuss. Go ahead. Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay. Isn't it kind of weird? Like, I drink tea every Saturday like I'm expecting it to not be good. That there have been a few instances where I have had to endure that. But for the most part, even in sitting here and thinking about it, I'm like, Amber, you're drinking a cup of tea that you make on a regular basis. How are you sitting here going like, oh, it's so good? Because it is. But why should I be surprised by that? Anyway, that is balm for the soul. And I needed that. Hope you're driving safe, my Jay. Love you very much. Oh, this is so delicious. And yes, feel free in the comments to put what you think about sweet potato pie versus pumpkin. Yesterday, I may have had sweet potato pie for breakfast. I regret nothing. And just a bit of insight to what I did for Thanksgiving. And again, I know my family is watching and are listening. I love you, Earls, Brewer people. I love you all so much. Stacy, Auntie Natalie, Cousin Brandon, all. I shouldn't start naming names. Ava, Ashton. Hey, y'all, I love you. So for Thanksgiving, I was going to take it slow, do it by myself, and I was going to make, you know, just a good old macaroni and cheese, bake a chicken, do some veggies, the whole nine. I was going to have one plan that changed a little bit. And I got home. And again, with me and my fancy behind, what did I do? I don't use elbow macaroni. I use cavatappi. I use spiral pasta for my macaroni and cheese. It's a mix of my mother's and my Auntie Natalie's recipe, which is thebomb.com, good people. But I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I boiled my pasta, and of course, all of it wasn't in one pot. Like, I'd say 2/3 of it was. I boiled my pasta, and I had a piece, you know, before you get the milk and the eggs and the cheese and the whole nine. And I don't know if it was the pot that I cooked it in or if it was the pasta itself. Excuse me. It tore my stomach inside out. Something was not right. And so what I did was I took the rest of the dried pasta and boiled that to see if it was the pot. And it didn't taste any different. But by that point, my tummy was so like, I just couldn't handle it. So what did I do? I went to bed. I lay down for a couple of hours. And then I got a call from a family friend who said, hello, Miss Charlotte, I got a call. And it was like, okay, are you spending time by yourself? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, get in the Uber and get over here. So I did that. And then I stopped by my aunt's house, my dad's older sister. And between the two places I went for Thanksgiving, I had the best time. Just people that I've known for a long time who knew before I got here. Again, I had phone calls from my family in Connecticut. Hey, cousin, from my family in Charlotte. So it was a really good. Yes, I'm also watching the comments for this. Yes, you also use cavatappi for pasta. I love being fancy. I love my fancy folk. But anyway, between that and spending it with family, it was good because it was a reminder of three things. One, that sometimes family is not blood. It's family that you find that has the common denominator of love that really does push you and remind you that you're not alone. Two, it was just really nice to be reminded that somebody is looking for me. And for those of you, myself included, for those of us who've experienced loss during this season, it can hurt. And I was going to put this in my social media somewhere. Back in the day, my entries were called Thinking on Bridges. They're now called Moments of Transparency. But I was trying to write it without sounding bitter or cynical, especially when you're that vulnerable during the holidays. People will either be kind of cruel, like, get over it, you ain't the only one, or it can come off like, it's okay, you're all right, we love you, don't worry. And it can feel a little cloying, honestly. And so it was me trying to figure out, holding all this to myself isn't healthy, but at the same time, you have to be very careful who you share your stuff with. Let's just call it what it is. Everybody can't handle your stuff. That's just the world that we live in. And so I just want to say a very sincere thank you to everyone who carried me through this holiday week. And again, the holidays ain't over. And for those of you who also had nuclear families who are very tight-knit, that's not the case anymore. I always say, I've got you, you've got me, we've got this. And in principle, I totally stand behind that. But I also know that sometimes that has to be something that's singing in your ears. And sometimes that singing can hurt or burn, or the wisp can actually bring a scar with it. I could go on and on and on. But someone gave me some very good advice yesterday. One of them said, know what your triggers look like. And I'm not saying turn a blind, and I promised myself I wasn't going to cry on my show today. Know what your triggers look like. Know, what time of year is going to bring this reaction or that reaction. And I'm not saying, let's just put some blinders on, do our best not to think about it. It's going to be fine. No, we're human beings. Cut me, I bleed. My heart beats like everyone else's until I'm dead. But, like I said a couple of weeks ago on Tea with Amber E., it might mean reaching out to people and letting them know that you might need a little more love. It might be reminding yourself that someone that you think is always okay might need a little extra love during this season. It's easier said than done. I understand all of this. Again, I'm living it. I've been living it for 7 years, for 8 years now. Wow. 8 years. Wow. But at the end of the day, I know that it's hard, whether you're on the giving or the receiving end of some of the pain that can come. Again, I'm thinking of people that I've lost, friends I've lost, whose parents are now experiencing their very first Thanksgiving without their children. I just want you all to know, again, my continued prayers and condolences go out to you. As one who doesn't have her parents with her, I know that, on the other end of it, it can really, really hurt. But I just know that, or rather, I believe love is going to find you if you let your heart do the singing. And I promised myself I wasn't going to cry on my show today. We ain't going to do that. We're going to take another sip. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll give you a topic. What is sweet potato casserole? Sweet potato casserole or Yamalo? Discuss. Go ahead. Oh, man. I may have to ask for a teapot this Christmas because, 1 cup isn't doing it like it used to. Golly. Child. Oh, my goodness. Thanks again for listening this far. We have a couple of announcements, good people. If you are in the Germantown area, guess what starts at 10 a.m. today? In this so chilly weather, so if you're going to do this, bundle up, wear your gloves, have a hat on, or wear your earmuffs, get some Vaseline and smear it on your face. Why? Because, again, from 10 to 2 p.m., it is Shop Small Saturday in Market Square Park, which is not too far from where we are, actually. It's right near Germantown Schoolhouse Lane. So keep in mind, there is going to be music, there's going to be vendors, there's going to be food, and it's an excellent time to remember that, we can always go to the convenient places to get good things for the holiday season. But there's something very powerful about buying local and, okay, let me get a little real for a little bit. Remember back, okay, I'm going to say this very carefully. Remember when George Floyd was murdered and for a while, everybody was, buying from Black-owned businesses and Black Lives Matter and T-shirts and the whole nine? That doesn't have to end now that that's not the hottest commodity for 2 reasons. One, because, I'm not going to get on that topic right now. But 2, because Black folk are still making their own businesses. Your neighbors, your friends, people of different cultures and ethnicities are still making business, they're still owning their businesses and circulating their own revenue. This is an excellent time to, one, if you did come 2 weeks ago to the wonderful festival on Maplewood Mall, 2 weeks ago, I'm sorry, that was last Saturday, excuse me, to the Maplewood Festival on the Mall, where Maplewood did have food and vendors, and here at G-Town Radio, where all your dreams come true. Yes, I said it. Bing! We asked you, what is your wish for 2026? People are still, selling stuff during the holiday season, so I'm just saying, you could always get a scarf from a major conglomerate, Or you can get to know the lady that you see all the time, don't know her name, but she always says hello to you, good morning, might give you a tangerine if you have a good day, or a lollipop for your daughter, and then say, oh my goodness, you make scarves too? See, that's what I'm saying right there. That's it right there. You do not know who's doing what in our neighborhood and in our community. So remember, good morning, Tiana, thank you for watching, sugar. Remember, now is a great time to shop local. From 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., there is going to be the Shop Small Saturday here at Market Square Park. Food, music, wonderful things to get for this holiday season. Just putting that out there. And again, thank you all so much for listening here at G-Town Radio, supporting, as well as for supporting all the people who do great things in our neighborhood, keeping the tea hot, keeping the tea popping, making sure the word of mouth is powerful. We just, not going to cry on my show. Not going to cry on my show. Not going to cry on my show. Not going to do it. Anyway, I'm all right. Just wanted to put that out there. So yes, my dears. Just that was one quick announcement. Again, if you know of any other things that are happening, make sure to put a note in the comments. Any other businesses, put a note in the comments. Just, this really is the time to uplift one another. Not to sound like a broken record or make my point too much, but again, now really is a time for people to come together in unity, in harmony, and enjoy the seasons changing, especially if for a lot of us, it's easier said than done. I said what I said. So yes, my dears. That's just one thing I wanted to put out there. Why'd I put Into the Woods soundtrack on my notes for today? I'm like, why'd I put that? It's because I spent a healthy chunk of my week listening to the Into the Woods soundtrack. I grew up a theater kid. And so the first time I heard of Into the Woods, one of Stephen Sondheim's masterpieces, that's been revived at least 3 times. I know that Bernadette Peters originally rated the role of the witch. Vanessa Williams was in one of the revivals. I think there's been a third, but I'm not 100% sure about that. If you listen to the song No One Is Alone, that's kind of been my anthem all week. Mother cannot guide you, now you're on your own. Only me beside you, still you're not alone. Sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. Do not let it grieve you. No one leaves for good. No one is alone. You are not alone. That's why I put that there. Just want to make sure I pointed that out. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. We still support one another. Even though the Eagles have had a bit of a rough week because we lost to the Cowboys and we lost to the Bears, and it's like, my birds, I love you. I know you've not had a good week. I know that Jalen's had to carry a lot of weight. I know the defense did that, but because we lost 20-15, and then we lost 21-23. I'm sorry, other way around. We lost 21-23, and then we lost 15. It's gonna be okay, birds. Go, birds. We gonna be all right. We gonna have to fix some stuff. I don't know how we gonna do that, but we are. I have faith in you, bird gang. Go, birds. It's gonna be fine. I'm not gonna crowd my show. I am not gonna crowd my show. I'm gonna say on my show, go birds. You are gonna figure this out. It is not the Jalen show. This is not the days of Donovan McNabb where it was really about the superstars and everybody else. Why? Because Carson Wentz changed that, where it became a team effort. And again, if we listen well enough, this is not that kind of radio show. But if we listen well, look, we can turn this around. Sure, we've had a bum week. It's not been a pretty day, but guess what, bird gang? We can figure this out. So go birds. Woosah. It's gonna be all right. Woo! Okay, so a couple things I wanted to mention today on my show. Let's just take another pause. Y'all probably wonder, how is Amber this energetic this early in the morning? I've had a lot of time to think this weekend. So yeah, you're getting the brunt of that. So appreciate you listening. So there are a couple things I saw in the news that really made me think about how, for goodness sake, I don't know why people don't. Okay, I'll start this way. So for those of you who don't know, this past week there was a woman named Mercedes Wells in Indiana who went in because she was in labor with her child and was actually turned away from the hospital and wound up having her child on the side of the road. And of course, it went from Indiana news to Good Morning America news. And you know, when that happens, it's like, okay, now we have a national dialogue happening. By the way, as of yesterday, I initially saw the story in People magazine. Then I saw it written on ABC News, is their local ABC News website in Indiana. This morning, when I was checking my credentials, there was an article written on BET.com that talked about how since she had to have her child on the side of the road because she was turned away and discharged from the hospital, she now is dealing with complications that have superseded that she probably could have received help from in postnatal care, that is pain and hemorrhaging. So she woke up not long after having her daughter, and she had bleeding, and it's like, come on, like, okay, let's get real for a second. Sorry, y'all, it's cold in here, but let's get real for a second. I don't know how many times, I'm just going to call it what it is. I don't know how many times Black women have been told that it's not as serious as it seems and you can go home, but I am tired of it. I remember about a decade ago, my mother and I went to a breakfast, because my mom and I used to joke with my auntie Mildred, like, when did y'all become socialites? Because they were, niece, you know, me and your mother gonna go out and I'm gonna wear my wig and wear my pants and your mama gonna get in there and talk to them peoples and they gonna listen to her. I digress. But we went to this breakfast over on Broad Street about infant mortality and how the numbers are different for Black women compared to our counterparts. And even back then, I remember thinking, how is that fair? And what is happening so that this is acceptable behavior? And so when I saw that story today, I went, what? Excuse me. No. And so, you know, there's always more to a story than what we see in the headlines or what we read in one or two or three avenues. That's why I really like to vet my information, you know, usually from the local news to the BBC, BBC One, or even international news reporting on things happening in America, because you usually get not even just a different perspective or I was going to say practical, but that's incorrect wording, or a objective perspective, but more a perspective that's from the outside looking in. I guess that's objective in the same way. But when I saw that, I went, on November the 16th, a woman who was in the hospital in Indiana was discharged and then had to have her child on the side of the road, and now is having pain and hemorrhaging because of what she should have received help from in postnatal care. Okay, Amber, you know how I always ask this. What is my takeaway? My takeaway for me personally, all I can talk about is the tea with Amber E. And it's Amber E and not anybody else on the title. So I'm just saying, this is my perspective. I do not know why these kinds of things are so prevalent. Or let me rephrase that. That's actually not a fair thing to say. I don't understand why these kind of stories exist. Again, I'm sure there's more to it than just, we saw her, turned her away, she had a baby on the side of the road. But the fact that the story even happened in Western culture, so please pay attention. And I guess this goes back to what happened a couple of weeks ago. When somebody is stalking someone else, pay attention to that, because maybe, just maybe, those aren't regular texts, and so no one has to end up deceased and the whole world starts mourning. That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, when you hear somebody's in legitimate pain, even for people who historically have been considered resilient, quote unquote, it's like, I'm still as human as the next person. If something's wrong, please listen to me. Don't just send me home. For goodness sake, come on. And as a community, how do we continue to listen to the women who are being harassed, who are being hurt, whose bodies are saying something, not just dismissing it, saying, okay, have you had your black cohosh today? Like, things like that. Do you hear what I'm saying? That notion that it's not something just to dismiss and go, well, we all have to carry the pain. We get it. Because, see, that kind of mindset, unfortunately, can come off as helpful, but can easily become dismissive, because ultimately, if you don't pay enough attention to it, somebody will have to have a life on the side of the road, and that could have easily been prevented. That's what I'm saying. What in the MTV's ridiculousness? Taking a sip, process that. I'm drinking a lot of tea today, ain't I? Hey. Bet you by golly, wow. That was one thing I saw in the news this week, and I said, we gotta make sure that people's stories are told and that we listen, which brings me to my second segment about how this past week, Mother Viola Fletcher passed, and she was one of the last two survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre that took place in 1921. And again, she was 111. So she wasn't just a centenarian, she was a super centenarian, where she lived more than 110 years. And there's a video that's been circulating, that's been going around that's been going around social media, where she appeared in Congress in the last decade, where she was talking about how things that happened when she was 7 years old to this day still stick with her, and how reparations still haven't been given to the families or the grandchildren, what have you, of those who were affected by the race massacre. And I remember when I saw that, when I saw the story, I thought to myself, the first thing I thought to myself, unfortunately, was my biggest concern is that people who are upset by critical race theory, or who are tearing down statues, or who are rewriting what we're taught in schools, don't wipe this out. Moreover, that people who may not fall into those categories but just don't want to revisit that stuff will say that never happened. It was just a farce. May not be in like the next 5 or 10 years, but maybe in the next half century will say the Tulsa race riots never happened. And for those of you who do know, I lived in Oklahoma for a couple of years because I went to college there. And it was only twice that I wound up going up to the area where the race riots took place. And again, I was in Tulsa, it was back in May of this year. I was only there for less than 48 hours, so I didn't do as much sightseeing as I wanted to, so to speak. But I do remember seeing in those areas where there are these little plaques in the ground that said, this person's mercantile was here, and this person's business was there, and so on and so forth. And it felt like this very beautiful, well-preserved, I'm trying to choose the word right for it, well-preserved, for lack of better wording, space. And even when I was living in Oklahoma, a lot of folk, this is back in 2006, a lot of people were saying, well, we didn't ever learn about that, Amber, or the race riots, or the whole nine, or Black Wall Street, what is that? And I'm like, wait a minute, y'all live here, and I don't want to be uber critical, but it's just kind of like, that's like me living here in Philadelphia and never knowing what a cheesesteak is. And that's a very watered down comparison. Maybe a better one is not ever going to see Independence Mall. But then again, there are a lot of us who live in the city who, unless you were in the 3rd grade or the 5th grade or kindergarten, have only went to see the Liberty Bell once. I'll tell you the story one time of how I went there for a mental health day, and I got swept up by Japanese tourists and wound up in the pictures. True story. We're not going to talk about that right now. We don't have the time. But the bottom line is, my prayer for Mother Fletcher's legacy is that we continue to tell her story. She actually wrote a book about it. We'll talk about that next week, too. She wrote a book a couple of years ago about her experiences. Might be something you want to get for the holidays. I don't know. Just putting that out there. But yes, my dears, it's a lot. The holidays are coming up. Continue to cover one another. One thing I was going to talk a little more in depth about today was how thankfully, Shapiro definitely signed the Crown Act here in Pennsylvania. We are the 28th state in the union to do that. And I was very unhappy when I saw people be very flippant, like, oh, does that mean that I can wear my hair dyed now to work? Or what's the big deal? It doesn't affect me and blah, blah, blah. This is so stupid. And I'm like, I'll maybe get more into this later. But the fact that I'm wearing this on my head right now, I'll just leave it at that. And even when I was in Oklahoma, I had a roommate who had box braids, and she was working at a shoe store, and she was sent home to take them out because it didn't look professional. Like, don't get me started, or please get me started. After all, this is The Tea with Amber E. And so again, knowing that we only have a little more time together, I may have to divulge into that a little bit more, but I really hope that you take the time to eat your leftovers. I don't know if you're the person who's going to keep eating and eating until there's nothing left, or if you're one of those real creative folk who's going to start making empanadas and enchiladas, wonderful food with, your turkey and your what have you. Hey, whatever category you fall into, I hope you continue to eat that good food. At least put it in the freezer so it don't go bad. And remember, sweet potato pie is your friend. I said what I said. Oh, my dears, I've got you. You've got me. We've got this. Let's keep the Hope Cup and the Hope Tea cups popping. Love and light to all of you. Enjoy your week, good people. Peace.